Welcome once again here on the Regional Radio Sports Network. We're broadcasting live and in living color from Beef O'Brady's. Thanks for joining us here for our Legends of the Game series. Excited about season number 3, show number 2. Two of my favorite human beings on the planet are with Coach Heck and I tonight. Well, actually 3, because Coach Heck would be in that same group.
Thank you,
but
man.
Alongside Coach Heck literally had a run-in with a pole. We're visiting with Mike Lightfoot and Tony Natali. These two guys teamed up, part of one of the greatest coaching staffs in the history of college basketball when they were at Bethel, 17 seasons together. Tony is to my right. Coach Lightfoot is across the table from me. Great to be with you. Real quick shout out to our friends at Harrison Sons Construction for underwriting our broadcast today. For over a decade, Harrison Sons Construction has offered full-service remodeling and construction. Projects include kitchen, bathroom, interior home remodeling. In addition, Harrison Sons Construction also offers roofing, siding, and interior and exterior painting. For more information on the services of Harrison Sons Construction, the phone number is 574-514-2104. Once again, 574-514-2104. Right around in the turn of the century, this guy across the table from me hired me to do some Bethel University basketball games on the Calvary Radio Network.
That's
at that
right.
point in time. Did about half a dozen games, I think, the first year, and then after that, it was like 15, 20 games, and the next thing you know, we're on the road hanging out with the Pilots full time. One of the greatest experiences of my lifetime was to spend 17 years of my life. I try to do this without crying with these two guys. These are two of my most favorite people that I have ever had a chance to work with, and two of my greatest friends. Thrilled to be able to be with them here tonight. Coach Heck, I'm at a loss for words because I love these guys. These guys, I learned a lot about a lot of things with these guys. I saw Jesus in action every day working with these guys. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, Bethel basketball. I mean, I grew up in South Bend. I'm a South Bend kid, played at South Bend St. Joe, and I remember distinctly every day we would play out at Steppen Center.
Yes.
Okay, the high school kids would play out at Steppen Center, and our coaches would be on the hill, and they'd be watching. We'd go at it, but when it would rain, we would somehow, and I don't know how this happened, but someone had a key into Bethel's gym. And when it would rain, we would play in Bethel's gym. And that's the first time really that I got introduced into Bethel basketball, because some of the players would play there. And they were really good. And then my sophomore year at Manchester, 1976, we're in the NAIA tournament. We're playing Bethel. And we beat Bethel. We went on to advance into the tournament. But Bethel basketball, to me, and I still think this. I still think this today is the greatest hidden gem in this city that there could ever be. Because in my estimation, with the players you had, with the players that Homer had, the players that Steve has, that gym should be packed if people want to see great basketball. It's been freaking great basketball.
Yeah.
Am I right?
No, you're right. It's unbelievable. A lot of great players have played in there, and a lot of great players come in from the other schools in the league to play in there. It's a great place, and it's always great to see that place packed.
Mike, take me back to the early days of hiring this guy here across the table. I know he'd worked his way up from Bowling Green and has done his stuff there locally in Marion County. What was the reason you hired Tony Natali? Don't say it because he was shorter than you, because we're going to leave out all the short jokes tonight.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So we have to leave those out. But what was the reason that there was an appeal to hire my favorite little Italian guy?
Well, it's downtown South Bend at the homeless center. And
he was there. He happened to be there.
The rest is history. No, we know Tony because he's been at Marion, and so
Right.
I've been able to connect with him for a long time. And then when we had some things happen where we had some openings as athletic director, and I was trying to package whatever we could to get him up here. Knew he was from Mishawaka, so I think we asked him to do everything, help coach basketball, really get our track program going, and he was also our sports information director, and anything else we could find to do to kind of package to get him up here and back home.
Is that the same story you remember?
It's exactly the way I remember it. I mean, it was an honor just to have the conversations that we've had together, and what a great opportunity and how God works, because my parents were still alive at that point, and the opportunity to come back here and just be around them. I'm so thankful to Coach Lightfoot to give me that opportunity, for sure.
We're going to take a quick timeout, come back with more of our continuing coverage of the Coach's Box right after this on Regional Radio Sports. Welcome back here on the Regional Radio Sports Network. Paul Condry along with Ron Hecklinski. We had a little bit of a technical snafu on that last segment. Apologize for that. But once again, thanks for joining us here today from Beef O'Brady's here in Granger. Thanks again to our friends here at Beef's for their great support of what we do. Coach Lightfoot, Coach Natali with us here today at Beef's. We have our show number 2, season number 3 of the Legends of the Game series. I want to take me back when you guys first started coaching together. Mike, I think one of the things I've learned over the years is that anytime you hire a coach, there is a point of, I can trust you with this, I can trust you with that. When did you get to the point where you were able to say to Tony, hey, listen, man, I'm confident that you can do, I can add this to your plate, I can add this to your plate, I can add this to your plate, because he tells me that he was in charge of scouting and conditioning at the outset.
Yes.
When did you give him more stuff?
Well, that's debatable. We could go maybe even to the last game I ever coached. I don't know. No, I think that he was really familiar with the league, and that was very important to me, that he knew the league really well. And so he can come in and not have to learn everything. He just had to learn the Bethel language. At that time, we had some guys that were still on the staff. Todd Gonwer, Scott LaPlace were still there. So it allowed him to kind of see what's going on and learn the culture. And then, as you see that happening, then you just, as a coach, I believe that you start delegating more and more. And the more they do, and they do it well, then they need more, and they do more. And so, he was doing the scouting. He was doing, a lot of the recruiting, and of course the conditioning part, which all the players just loved him for that.
Yeah, right, Tony?
Oh, for sure. Tried to make it as fun as we could, as much as you could with conditioning. But, yeah, I tell people all the time how much credit I give to Coach Lightfoot to do that, because it's not easy to delegate when you're in charge. I mean, the bottom line is, if I mess up, yeah, I may hear it from him, but the bottom line is he's the head coach, and he's going to hear about that. So it was really an honor to be delegated what we were delegated when I was blessed to coach with Ryan, and Ryan did a lot of the offensive work, and I did a lot of the defensive work. We talked about this all the time, about how Coach he just allowed us to take that, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I felt like I was very involved from the beginning with that. Coach is exactly right. Learning the system a little bit, learning the language was very important to me. Took a couple of years to do that.
When did you really feel comfortable and understand the dynamics of, this is the way Mike, this is the way Mike works, this is what Mike's expectations are, or was that just like an ongoing learning process for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it was ongoing like always, but the first couple of years I tried really hard. I've always tried to be the kind of person that when I get put in that position, even as an AD, I tried to do this, just to learn a little bit before I just jumped in with
Sure.
both feet. And I tried to do that with Coach and Coach LaPlace and Todd, of course, and just to learn from them and how everything works. So I tried to do that for a couple of years, and Coach LaPlace and I only coached, I think, 1 year together. Yeah. So when he moved on, that allowed more responsibility to come as well.
I think one of the things about, running your program and being the head coach and the dynamics of it is when you delegate stuff to somebody, and then as a head coach, you're sitting back and you're saying, now, can this guy get this done? Because if this guy can't get this done, then I got to do it because it has to get done.
Right.
And once you can find an assistant coach or assistant coaches that you can trust and you can know that they're going to get that done, it's a tremendous relief off of your plate, because you can move on to other things then.
We're seeing a trend in that. I got that whole idea from Coach Larinaga, and just saw that, I met with him one time, long time ago, I think even before he was at Miami. It was before Miami. He talked about he studied football coaches and how they have an offensive coach and a defensive coach. And, now you got all sorts of coaches. You got development coach, you got NIL coach, you got all those things. But, I thought, wow, if I ever get to a position where I can trust people to be an offensive coach and a defensive coach, then that's going to make my job as a head coach. I can see everything rather than just funnel in on one of the two. And, it's interesting because I think Larranaga hit something that now across the country you see an offensive coach and defensive coach almost in every major program.
When you look at giving away that responsibility, because I think most coaches as head coaches, you're a type A personality, it's hard to give things away, especially when you're the signature name on the program. This is your program. I mean, for you, was it difficult to say to Tony or to whoever it was at that point when Ryan was coaching with you, was it difficult to say, hey, listen, you're ready for this position, I'm ready to delegate? Was that hard for you, Mike?
I don't think so, because I had trust in the staff to do that. I think that's the key. You have to have trust in what they're doing. Now, when you delegate as a head coach, you still are responsible. I think that's important to understand. You're still responsible for everything that goes on.
Sure.
And so that goes back to communication, making sure that everybody's on the same page, we understand what's going on. Because if you send mixed messages to your players, they think, well, who's making the shots here? Then you're going to get in trouble. They're going to question your ability as a coach and coaching staff. So I think it's very important to communicate all the time what's going on and how it's going to fall into place.
And I think there's always a fine line between, giving your guys responsibilities, and you don't want to hire yes guys.
Nope.
I mean, you want guys that are going to challenge you and bring stuff back to you and say, hey, why don't we show on this ball screen this way, or why don't we do this setting up a cut? But then at the end of the day, no matter how hard they come at you, it's your decision to make that final decision.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, it's that assistant coach's job not to get their feelings hurt. Not to say, hey, he told me he doesn't want a yes guy, but every time I tell him something, he doesn't want to do it.
Right.
I mean, there's no feelings, there's no nothing. It's a program, and it's to run the program the right way and win games, right?
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah, you don't want to have a yes man. I've seen that. We all have, where you have a staff that feels insecure and not going to challenge the head coach and say, here's some things to think about. I think that's a key to having a successful coaching staff.
Mike, from your standpoint, I know you coached football for a while when you first started. I know that the great football programs and coaches, we had Coach Giesman and Coach Yeoman, they were out on our last Legends program. One of the things that they talked about was on the Sunday, when they had their Sunday meetings, as they're getting ready to prepare for whoever it was, they sat down collectively as a staff and they hammered out different ideas here or there. But the key thing that those guys talked about was the importance of being united when they walked out of the team meeting, out of the coaches meeting, that this was going to be the best game plan to beat this team. And so as the game goes along and things may not go your way, or they go your way, you have to, as the head coach, you have to show confidence to your players when you may be mad at Tony, you may be mad at whoever, because the game plan that you all decided that was going to be the best game plan isn't working, and it is working. So can you speak to that dynamic?
That's always a tough one, but I think I was blessed as a coach to have a feel for it. Sometimes you work all week on a scout and try to get it right, but you can be 5 or 6 minutes in the game, and all of a sudden you have somebody foul trouble. All of a sudden you recognize that this player is extremely hot, or they're doing things we have not seen before. The game has still got to be a game plan with flexibility, and unfortunately, I'm working with a lot of coaches that are still trying to figure that out. They're set in their ways, and so they're not going to change for any reason at all. And they say that's a sign of weakness if I change. It's a sign of strength if you're willing to make. If you look at great generals in the time throughout our history, they've been able to go into a battle and then make adjustments as the battle went on, and that's the same thing that as coaches got to have a feel for. Wait a minute, we worked on this all week, but it's not working. do we stay with it and just die with it, or do we make an adjustment and see how that handles? I think that's a key part of where the head coach has got to finally pull the trigger on that stuff.
And Tony, to my point about the assistant coach, if Mike looks down the 18 inches over to your chair and say, hey, listen, hey, coach, this is not working. What are we going to do? And then you have to kind of get on the
First of all, I didn't say it that nicely.
I don't think he ever told me that. I mean, no, that's happened once or twice. But no, a couple of things come to mind listening to this is we met every day as a staff. We met every day before practice and went through the practice schedule. And that we talked about things, and that it wasn't always agreed upon. But you're exactly right. When we left coach's office, and I think of when Ryan and I coached, especially when we left the office, we were all on the same page. And it was, I think that's one thing that did make us united and make us the way we were is, talk about offensive coordinator, defense coordinator. Ryan knew what he was doing. I tried to do what I was tasked to do. And we really did a good job of communicating to each other and to coach what we were trying to do. So there were a lot of colorful conversations that we had about something not working or whatever. But again, I tried to voice my opinions, but it was he made the final decision, and he should have. He's the head coach. Exactly.
I love the one where, it's a scouting report. Man, you watch all this film. We had to watch all this film, break them down, blah, blah, blah. And number 32 has not taken a 3 in 5 games.
And he comes out and nails 8.
Now he comes out and he nails 8. And, and as the head coach, if Tony's got the game, as the head coach, I'm going, Tony, what game did you watch? What tapes did coach? He ain't never shot one. I mean, those are always fun conversations.
You can always watch. Anytime you watch a college Division I game, you always know the coach has got the scout. You can pick that person up in the first 30 seconds, because if someone hits a shot they're not supposed to, or they make a play that he knows they've worked on and they didn't defend it well, you can tell right away he's got skin in the game, and he is not happy.
That happened one year in Branson at the national tournament. We're playing College of the Ozarks, and they had a great team, and they had one guard that hadn't hit hardly anything all year. We shut everybody down we're supposed to, and that one guy who Corey was defending, Corey Lance, he just went off, and it was like, what is going on?
Cost us probably another national championship.
He probably did, yep.
Speaking of national championship, these two guys collectively, taking a look at some of the things that Mike has been able to accomplish during the course of his career. He's in the NAIA Hall of Fame, the NCCAA Hall of Fame, the Bethel Hall of Fame, the Mishawaka Marion High School Hall of Fame, the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, and the Small College Hall of Fame. Tony Natali's got a couple of those plaques on the wall from the NCCAA as well as the Bethel Hall of Fame. Once again, we're glad you can join us here, and we're going to be back here after this short time out, but we want to thank our friends at Harrison Sons Construction for underwriting our broadcast here today. Harrison Sons Construction offered full-service remodeling and construction projects, include kitchen, bathroom, interior home remodeling. In addition, Harrison Sons Construction also offers roofing, siding, and interior and exterior painting. For more information on the services of Harrison Sons Construction, the phone number is 574-514-2104. We'll be back in 60 seconds on 91.1 FM The Globe and globeradio.org. Welcome back here on Regional Radio Sports. Paul Condry, Coach Ron Hecklinski. Thanks for joining us here for the Legends of the Game series. Coach Heck, glad that he's back, and certainly glad that he is on the men. Coach Mike Lightfoot, Tony Natali. These guys teamed up to create an amazing environment at Bethel University. Mike, in his career, 794 wins, 285 losses. That means he's won 73% of the games that he's played. And the best basketball conference in the country, he won 65% of his games. 11-time champion, 3 NAI national championships, and on its way to a half a dozen NCCAA championship. 2-time Coach of the Year in the NAI, 3-time NCCAA Coach of the Year, and of course he has done a wonderful job now as one of the main guys and nations of coaches. I know Tony's been actively involved in FCA. Before we talk some old school basketball, I want to talk about your present, current day ministry, because those are things that really, really are important for both of you. Tanya and I are very, very happy to support both things that you're doing. Mike, when you got out of coaching, I know the Lord, you always told me that if I wasn't going to be a basketball coach, I probably would have been a pastor or a minister. I think that was what the conversation that you and I have had on numerous occasions. Well, now you're very similar to that situation. You're all around the country, visiting with coaches and putting in character coaches into different programs. Tony, you're still involved in the FCA, so you're still doing that. And your role is expanded because now you're the AD at Bethel, which Mike was a long time ago. So now you have your hands in something even greater because you find yourself in a situation with 500 athletes on the Bethel campus. You have got a chance to make an impact there. So let's talk about making an impact for Christ.
Yeah.
Mike, let's start with you. Talk about the nation of coaches and what God's called you to do.
Just out front, I never thought I would ever see anything or be a part of an organization that could trump my basketball coaching career, but it has. What's happening with Nation of Coaches and the impact it's had on college basketball is really second to none in a very short time. It's only 15 years old, but we are just seeing absolutely amazing things every day. Every day we're taking back the game. And by taking back the game, it's the only game invented by Naismith to lead people to the Lord. That's why he invented the game. He wanted something to have something with a YMCA. He is a Presbyterian pastor, and so he just said, we got to do something for these guys in the wintertime. So that's how it started. And so our whole thing was 1891, and so now we want to take the game back. And so the game's in a very, very bad place. If you just recently heard about Virginia and what's going on there, it is in the worst place. And so I look at it as such a time as this, that we can invest in and pour into coaches and players and get involved in their lives. We do a great job as a program in colleges to really do a great job of getting them to learn the fundamentals. We do a great job of getting them to understand maybe even the academic side. But we have done a terrible job in the spiritual side. And we all know that if the spiritual side's not right, the other thing, it's not going to max out on the other sides. And so we're dealing with teen suicide, depression, coaches at NIL, the portal, all those things, still dealing with COVID. All those things have now kind of come to a pyramid effect where we just feel like we have got to tackle this head on. And we are.
Tony, FCA, you're still actively involved in that, and now with all the athletes that you have underneath you, the auspice of being the AD at Bethel University in Mishawaka, you likewise have a big opportunity to make an impact for the kingdom of God.
Yeah, it's just amazing how God works. The FCA work I do is not on a big level since I'm doing the stuff I'm doing at Bethel, but it's just great to see the high school huddles, the college huddles in the area taking off and doing what they're doing, and it's just making a great impact in the area. The AD situation at Bethel is, I tell you, it's been a lot of fun because to have that many athletes, I've always looked at, especially when I coach track, as that being my ministry and an opportunity. We had a lot of kids come in that did not know the Lord when they came to Bethel. And boy, I tell you, it was so cool to see how God worked in those situations. So I'm in a different situation now because I don't have my own team. But one thing I really wanted to do as an AD was keep my door open and keep meeting with student athletes as they come in. And we've had, I can think of 3 conversations in the last 2 weeks since fall break where there are upperclassmen that have now accepted Christ that when they came to Bethel, they weren't even close to where their walk with the Lord was. So those are coaches that are doing a great job. I mean, that's totally them and Jesus, but it's just, that's the rewarding part. Yeah, it's great to have the successes we've had, and as we're talking, it was great. I mean, we had such a good time coaching together. The success and the winning was absolutely great. We'd be lying if we say it wasn't. But the most important part of what we did together was the relationships and the opportunities we had. We had something really special. And I really firmly believe, as I see other coaching staffs and even the other staffs I've been a part of, what we had at Bethel, that is not normal. And I'm so fortunate that I was a part of that. I mean, it was just a special time at a special place. So it was not. I don't look at that as that's what happens all over the country. I just don't think it happens that way.
Mike, let me give you an open-ended question. Honestly, is Is the game in great jeopardy? Is it in dire straits?
It's in dire straits. I'm boots on the ground. So we're dealing with incredible people, coaches, but it's not in their control. Before, we through a generation that we lived, the coaches had control. Now the coaches have no control. And with that, they have no idea what the next is. They can't keep players. Players are leaving. Players now are playing in a football season. They're playing their maximum gains so they can redshirt. So they get their $30,000 and want to go someplace and get $300,000. You know, we're seeing the players right now in college basketball say, we're holding out. We're not going to play, coach. We're not getting enough money. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many undercurrents that are going on in the game, and what you saw at Virginia this week is going to continue to happen because people, if they coach for whatever reason, that reason is no longer there. I mean, you can still say, hey, we want to impact lives. Yes, that's no question. The guys want to do that. But at the same time, they don't have they're looking at an 8-month window where they can impact a life rather than a 4-year deal, which they've had for years.
Yeah. Is this an advantage for the NEI coaches?
They're doing the same stuff, so it's trickled down. You know, I think it's happening. There's got to be a trickle down of kids. First of all, this seniors in high school are not recruited as heavily because of the portal, so that helps the NAI schools. And then you're going to have kids that finally said, "I've had enough of all this, and I'm going to fall back." But we've also saw in our league at Indiana Wesleyan and at Grace, where all of a sudden kids in Huntington. All of a sudden, those kids are moving on. And Ryan and I have had this discussion over and over and over again. We can think of 20 guys that would not have played for me for 4 years. They would have been gone because the financial part of it would have been the key part of it.
Let me ask you this question. Is there NIL money already filtering down to the NAI leagues?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And involved in the Crossroads League?
Oh, yeah,
you think?
Absolutely. Yes, there's no question.
And I don't think it's long before it now gets into the high school levels with the prep schools that they have and all those other magnet schools where kids can go. And
that's
you're
all
right. It is a mess.
It's already happening in some states where NIL is legal in Florida, Kentucky, California, Arizona.
Texas. Yeah, and we're involved in it, especially the last year or so. But we're involved in it because other folks in our conference have been involved in it at high levels. So we have to be involved at some level just to be competitive. This is Steve Draben's 6th year, and Coach would agree with me. I think the last year or two, it's taken him 4 years to really understand I need to recruit Indiana high school basketball players.
Yes.
And last year and this year, I mean, he's got 4 commitments for next year, and every one of them's a high school kid from Indiana. So it's just taken some time to figure out that's kind of that's going to be our MO is going to be to do that.
So at what point, if he's taking an Indiana kid, at what point is an Indiana high school kid saying, hey, coach, my scholarship isn't good enough anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you have for me on the side? I get $10,000 or what?
Yeah, it's got to be the right fit. It's got to be the right kind of kid. And you got to. We talk every single day at Bethel about culture, and I learned culture from Coach. But we've got to have a great culture. There's got to be something at Bethel in all of our sports. There's got to be something at Bethel that's different than other schools that are just like us. Because frankly, that's who we compete against.
Mike, I want you to take me back, going on the road, scouting kids, recruiting kids. You know, you're going to a gymnasium, a high school gymnasium in wherever, Indiana, in the same place as Paul Patterson, Jim Kessler, John Grimes, Steve Platt, maybe Jeff Reckaway, Ryan Cotty. I mean, there'll be a whole bunch of guys all there at the same.
We would always meet there Friday and then play turn Saturday.
Yeah, so, you know, do you miss the days of competing against some of those great names, some of those guys are great men of God. I mean, you miss the days of doing that. And when you look back on those great relationships that you had, not only with their assistant coaches, as well as those head coaches, is that a special thing for you still to look back on those moments?
Yeah, I think so. There's that competitive edge, and so when you were on the court, you know, as a coach, you wanted to beat the other team as bad as you possibly could, and we understood for years we had a target on our back, and we set the standard, and everybody came after us hard. So but you have to respect. I think coaches were doing it for the right reason at the NAI level, and we had a lot of like-minded, faith-based coaches that were doing that for the right reason, and that made it tough to recruit because there wasn't a lot of difference in their programs and our programs, and so you had to really build your culture and sell your culture the best you can. And I believe that we worked harder than anybody else to get kids as a staff, and we just camped on kids. And I had dads that said we thought you were some type of a stalker or something because you were every game every night, and we busted it to do that in order to win over a kid in our league.
Tony, you remember those times?
Oh boy,
you miss those times.
I do. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it sounds like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work. But I tell you what, those were the best times in the world. Driving around on Friday nights, and Coach would be one place, and Ryan would be at a place, and I'd be at a place, and then we just all call at the end of the day, and we're driving back, and we're all talking about, oh, this was a waste of time, or this was really good. I feel good about this kid, and it was really good because those were the days still where you went to high school games all the time, and AAU was starting to become real important. We would go to Fisher's and watch those things as well. But by the time we got to those things at Fisher's, we had those relationships built. We were going just to continue to see kids. Yeah. We really didn't see anybody new for the most part at those places.
Heck, I know when you were coaching at Ball State, your recruiting dynamics were a lot different. But when you were the high school head coach, how important was it for you to know that Lightfoot or Kessler or Platt or whoever was there, and you knew those guys were there, and your athletes knew those guys were there? How important was that for you as a high school head coach?
Well, and recruiting. I recruited at Ball State too. And here's a question I want to ask you guys, because this happened to me, and then I'll get back to your question, Paul, but this happened to me a couple of times where Dick Hunsaker says, hey, Heck, I want you to go to Chicago. I want you to see this kid. I love this kid. So I get to Chicago, and this kid got talent, but he's a dog. He doesn't guard anybody. He doesn't get back on defense. He doesn't do anything. So I come back. Dick says, hey, Heck, how'd you like him? You like him, Heck? I said, Dick, absolutely, I did not like him. He said, I want to take him, Heck. I said, Dick, I didn't like him. So he sends me again. I come back. The guy's got a J. He's quick, but he doesn't guard anybody, and he's a dog. So I come back, give the same report, and Dick says, all right, we ain't taking him. That same kid is the all-time leading scorer at UTEP now. And those things happen.
Oh,
right?
All the time.
I mean, because you see a kid, I mean, you have values that you want in a player.
Yes.
And those things happen. So I thought that was the cool thing in recruiting.
Yes.
Because they could go, I mean, there's always a place for them to go. Yes. And they could still be good, but that place wasn't my place.
Right.
And then when I saw guys, I mean, everybody knew that the Crossroads Conference was a great conference. And it was actually, I thought it was a better conference than the lower Division I conferences, because I thought the coaching was great, the talent level was phenomenal. And when you called me, or Kessler called me, or somebody else called me about a kid, Tonigo used to call me all the time, I'd say, man. But then I'd bring the kid in, right? And the kid would say, hey, Coach, what division level are they? What? I said, stop. Yeah. I said, it doesn't matter if they're Division 7 because you can't play at Division 7.
Yeah.
This is the greatest league in the country. Yeah. So stop. But I thought, I mean, your jobs, and I did it. I thought that was really cool to get out there and see other coaches. I mean, Doug Mitchell and I he was a Butler when I was at Ball State. Yeah. So we were on the same guys.
Oh, yeah.
I would hang with Mitch, and, I mean, there was no like, hey, Heck, you can't see him do this because he can really do this. We knew what they could do.
Yes.
But just the relationships that y'all built up were fantastic.
I had a chance to, at one of the Big Ten football meetings 25 years ago or so, spend some time with with Joe Paterno, the head football coach at Penn State. And one of the conversations that I was sitting next to him, and he's drinking his black coffee like he might as well had an IV. He was just going to town on the black coffee. But I'll never forget asking him the questions about the impact that he felt he had on us. I mean, this was long before any of the stuff that happened at Penn State. But he said, I asked him what he thought, how he would define the word success. And he says, well, the success for me as a head coach is not if we go 10-1 this year or if we go and win the national championship. Success for me is I want to know 20 years from now what kind of young men that I coached. Are they good husbands? Are they good fathers? Are they good business people? Are they making an impact in the world? That's how I define success. When we come back after the timeout, I want you to share some of your success stories, not in wins and losses, but some of the kids who may have come in and it's like, I don't know if this guy's ever going to play, or this guy has great opportunity and now he's doing this, whether it be in ministry, whether it be as far as running a business, or if he's just an everyday guy doing whatever he's doing, but he's doing it for the right reason. So don't touch that dial, folks, on radio. We're going to come back with our conversation with Coach Natali and Coach Lightfoot. But we want to thank again our friends at Harrison Sons Construction. We're underwriting our broadcast tonight. They offer full-service remodeling construction projects, which include kitchen, bathroom, interior home remodeling. We also would like to thank Harrison Sons Construction because they do roofing, siding, interior, exterior painting. For more information on the services of Harrison Sons Construction, the phone number is 574-514-2104. We'll be back in 60 seconds on 91.1 FM The Globe.
We're working on
Welcome back here on Regional Radio Sports to Beef Brady's Thursday night home, and thanks again for joining us here for Season 3, Show number 2. My longtime friends, Tony Natali and Mike Lightfoot, these guys teamed up for 17 years as husband and wife, if you will, as guys on the bench at Bethel. Great to have them here. All right, we talked about making an impact, and I gave you a caveat to talk about that I got from Coach Paterno. Tony, I'm going to start with you on this one because there's some kids that you've had a chance to coach, and it could be some of your track kids. It could be some of your basketball guys, but some guys that came along and you invested into them, and you look at where those young men, or maybe young women, with your track team. Who are some of the kids that are no longer kids now, but are people who have really, really make you proud of the time and the love and the culture you guys created?
That's a really tough question because we could talk from now till tomorrow night at the same time about this conversation. I think there's just so many kids because this is what we did. I mean, yes, we were about basketball those hours on the floor, but during the day, this is what we did. Kids were constantly in our offices talking about life and where they were at. But just some of the ones, it's interesting because I think of a kid like a Landon Booker, who's from South Bend, who came in and we knew he was a great kid. We knew all the things about him, but he wasn't great academically coming in, and I don't think he really probably understood Bethel coming in. But by the time he left, he did do well academically, and he absolutely bought into Bethel. I mean, I think of the times he worked camp for us in the summer, he would connect with those kids, those campers, and they would come and stand outside the locker room waiting for him to come out of the locker room, and he's mentored those kids. And I look at where he's at now with his family, and he comes to our games, and he's doing well in the business world. I think of a kid like that who made it through the whole time, tore his Achilles late in his career, and that really bothered him, but he got through it well, and he still connects with both of us. And then I think of other kids, like we had a young man who came in, actually found him in a summer league working in the steel mills, and in Gary, and he was there for not even a semester. I mean, he was there for just a few months, and he couldn't buy into what we were doing, and we tried to mentor him, and I remember this so vividly. He walked in my office and he would say, "I'm gonna go tell Coach Lightfoot I'm leaving," and this was like in October, and I said, "Just remember one thing, remember the conversations we've had to you about Jesus," and he's like, "Yeah, whatever," and he left, and I thought, well, I'll never see that kid again. And I remember telling Coach Lightfoot about a year and a half later, I'm mowing my grass, and a car pulls up my house, and it's this guy and his wife. And his wife was a Bethel lady too, and they came up and he basically said, I'm here to tell you I've accepted Christ. I'm involved in my church, and though that month and a half I was at Bethel really made an impact on me. So I tell that story to all of our coaches all the time because we think of that is failure, because they didn't stay very long. They were just there for a month. But that month that Coach and I had an opportunity to talk to him about who Jesus was, it made an impact to him and his family for the rest of his life.
I look at guys like Will Walker, what he's doing in Michigan City right now, Corey Lance over at Transformation Ministries. Mike, there's a lot of guys.
Yeah, that is a tough question, because I could flip that question and say I could think of one or two that hasn't made a great impact, whatever they're doing.
Sure.
You know, Jeff Hobson, I drove by Martinsville and see all the car dealerships right there. And, that's just one. And, of course, there's Michael. I mean, there's Edison, there's Bales, there's all those guys. There's Rico, there's all those guys. And Eric Brand starting an incredible podcast and doing great things for husbands that are single parent husbands, and they're just on and on and on and on. I honestly I'm thinking of Kyle Kicksmer. That name comes up. We kicked him out of school. He's a pastor, and there's just so many names like that we were just blessed to have. That was the culture, and like I said, it wouldn't be fair for me to start singling names out, because it's all of them.
Right.
And the blessing that I have is I've been able to stay connected with all those guys.
Yeah, social media has allowed us to do that. I mean, I had a speaking engagement this past Saturday, and I talked about the importance of my high school basketball coach, that Jim Lichtenberger, the time that he invested in my life, and you guys investing in my life. I mean, so there are so many people that people don't understand that coaching. Heck, and you know this. It's not about how many games you win or how many banners are on the wall, how many Hall of Fames that we're in. The bottom line is when we get to heaven and we realize that we're going to see Jesus face to face, and he says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And then we're going to, at some point in time, we're going to see all those souls in heaven that we impacted. That's going to be like the coolest thing in the history of all time.
Billy Graham said it best. He said the coach impacts more lives in 1 year than most people do in a lifetime. And I think that's we think about our school teachers, or with you at Jim Lichtenberger, you think about coaches that impacted you at St. Joe and Manchester, people that you come across, you remember those things. You don't remember all the other things, but you remember the impact, the investment they made in you. Maybe at the time you didn't like it.
Sure.
I think of Steve Longfellow I had, and Homer Drew, and people like that just invested in me, that molded me and helped me become the person I am.
When you look back on favorite plays, favorite players, that's our next step. I know Coach Heck wants to talk about some of the great basketball players that he's had a chance to see and coach. There's a lot of great ones. Just in the time that I've been hanging out with y'all for the last 25 years, there's been some great talents. But there was a decade before I had a chance just to watch the Pilots. I wasn't the voice of the Pilots at that point in time. There were some great teams that happened along the way. I want you to share some favorite memories when we come back after the timeout. So more things coming your way here from Beef Brace. We'll be back in 60 seconds. This is our final timeout on Regional Radio Sports. Welcome back here to Beef O'Brady's. Thanks for joining us here on our Legends of the Game series alongside Coach Ron Hecklinski. I'm Paul Condry. To my right here, for those of you who are watching on the program tonight, Tony Natali across the table, Coach Mike Lightfoot. These guys teamed up for 17 seasons, and they were just the toast of the town here locally. All right, guys, open table. Coach Heck, I know that you've seen some great teams over the years. I don't know if Mike has a great team over the years, but I have a couple teams that I had a chance to see Mike and Tony coach that were pretty special. Got a couple kids that are going into the Bethel Hall of Fame. I want to mention that while you got you two guys there. Ryan Benner and Caleb Ochin. Caleb Ochin is particularly one that, as a kid who just kind of bid his time, played behind the legendary Matt Schaus, who I think, in my humble opinion, one of the toughest, grittiest, orneriest. I love that football mentality he had when he played basketball, but he had to play behind him and turned himself into a heck of a player. So I'm going to congratulate Caleb and Ryan Benner, and of course the basketball team that's also going to be honored in the Bethel Hall of Fame. So, Mike, is there some guys out there and some teams and some moments out there that will be forever ingrained in your mind as some special moments? I know it had to be. One of them has to be. Robbie and Ryan together.
Yeah, that was
winning a national championship.
Yeah, not too many dads have the opportunity to coach their sons and then win a national championship. So, that was truly a blessing for the Lightfoot family. I think a lot of people don't realize the best team that we had, in my mind, never won the national championship. That was 2016. That was the team that didn't lose a conference game. That's pretty hard to.
Yeah.
And 38-2, something like that.
Right.
But the Vaughn Gilbert, David Haverstick team, and you had just unbelievable talent and players on that team that didn't. It takes a lot of breaks.
It was.
Ryan and I have talked about this over the years. That we won a lot of championships, but we can count three more that we felt we should have won, but it just didn't happen. You see a guy from the Ozarks gets tough, or somebody makes a great play that takes away a game. Bellevue hits a bunch of shots, and all those things haunt me still. I wake up in the middle of the night. But I think there was just so many, and I was blessed from the very beginning with Jody Martinez and Dave Troyer and people like that were Robbie Prinkert. I mean, just Bob Knievel. I mean, these are all Hall of Fame people that I was, Ryan Beck. They're all Hall of Famers that I had my first couple of years, so I've been blessed all the way through to have great players.
How about you, Tony?
There's so many great teams. I mean, I think of the team that Matt Schaus was injured when he got hurt. I mean, to me, that was a team that I felt going into the later part of that year could have gone a long way.
Yeah.
And when that happened, as hard as we tried not to get deflated by that, you couldn't help. I mean, he was the engine, and that was a tough one. But we had so many great experiences in Branson. I mean, when we got done with the conference tournament, we were blessed to win it a lot of years, and even the years we didn't, I remember, we watched the show come on of the pairings, and it was such a relief. I remember the teams that we would get, it'd be like, we're done with the Crossroads League for a little bit. And I remember as soon as the show was done and everybody left, one of our homes, wherever we had it at, I remember getting on the computer and starting to look at film with those teams, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is a piece of cake compared to what we've been through for the last 3 months. And it was just so many fun times in Branson, and that's most of my time was Branson. Coach was in Idaho, but so many great teams, so many.
Those teams that went out to Idaho, Mike, the three national championship teams, you go back to back, and I remember the Cornerstone game was the game you lost. That was a heartbreaking game, and it was like I saw the film, and I saw, this guy's out of bounds. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, look back on those. That's a teachable moment, and it really sucked that you lost the game. But
Michael, at church Sunday, Michael Edison said, "Coach, are you ready to watch that film?" I go, "Nope." "Are you?" He goes, "Nope." He said, well, let's wait another 10 years. We're celebrating it. He said, let's wait another 10 years. I said, well, that'll be good because there'll be nothing that we can run it on because there's not going to be any VCR, DVD, or anything like that. I said, so let's put another hold on that for 10 more years.
So it's still bad?
One of the questions I have, okay, you take the job at Bethel, right? Mm-hmm. And now it's almost a genesis because you're starting. When did you know? Was it your first recruiting cycle, your second recruiting cycle? So when did you know that you were going to become a national powerhouse?
Oh, I didn't know that for a long time. I think that we just all of a sudden developed a niche where local kids in the area and the communities around this area all of a sudden found an alternative and say, hey, we're going to stay close to home. They're winning. It's a great situation. So we eventually got those kids together at one time.
Yeah, that's really important to understand your niche in the recruiting game, whether it's in track and field or whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball, is what can you sell a kid on? And obviously, both of you guys have talked about how important the soul of a student athlete is, and once that comes across and everybody knows that, then kids are walking into your door that already have that.
Right. Sure.
And now all you got to do is teach them how to high jump.
Yeah.
And now you got to teach them how to hoop it up.
Yep.
I look at our retention numbers, and I'd love to go back and do a study on that, but I can't think of us hardly ever having a kid leave. I mean, we had kids that were there, like Coach said, for 4 years. I mean, our retention percentages had to be through the roof at that point. We just didn't lose. Even kids that didn't play very much, they kind of knew what was going on. I still remember Derek Mosier when we ran scout teams. On their coach knows this. They would buy shirts that they'd wear on the road, and they'd say, "We run your stuff better than you do." and they totally bought in. They were the scout team, and they, when we would go out and to nationals, they knew they were a huge reason why we were there, even though they never played. They knew that they were a huge reason that we made that improvement.
Can you create culture, Mike, in today's society the way that you had before? And what's it going to take?
Well, I think that it's all different. I mean, you can create a culture, but it's got to be a short-term. The culture that was used before, I think at the NAI level, it's still realistic to do that because you're going to get most of your guys for at least 3 years or 4. You know, realistically, they're not all going to be booted. But I think, Ryan and I talked about that this morning this morning on my drive in, and he's saying that this year we're just trying to build a pillar so we can build off of that. So year 3 will be the real challenge. I think that's kind of a goal of most administrators. They will give the coaching staff 3 years to make a turn in what's going on. I think the same thing can happen. The demands you set, the standards you set, can be those no matter if you got them for 8 months or you got them for 4 years. You got to stick to those standards. And here's what I believe. I think just because there's the portal and everything else, great kids want to be coached hard.
I agree with you.
And I think that's a fallacy that some coaches have fallen into. Oh, I don't want to upset this guy. I don't want to be demanding on this kid. I don't want to be demanding as a coach because I'm afraid he might whatever. Great players want to be coached very hard. And now I get to travel all over the country, and I witness that. I witness what happens at UConn. I witness what happens at Purdue. Well, I see those things. They're being really coached hard, and the results show.
I had a conversation this past summer with my good friend Tom Allen, who used to be the head coach at IU, who's now the defensive coordinator at Penn State, and they were in a battle for a top 10 kid, and he had big dollar opportunities to play in the SEC with lots and lots of money on the table. And they eventually won the kid because they told the kid, we want you to come here, but there's no special treatment here. This is what you're going to get. You're going to be a part of this culture. You're going to be a part of this. And we're going to coach you hard. And the kid just totally said, his dad played in the NFL. He had understood some of the dynamics. And so he chose to go to Penn State over the 4 other SEC teams just because he felt that they were going to get more out of him because they weren't going to hold back. They were going to coach him hard. They were going to love him hard. They were going to, and the other also aspect was that Tom was going to be the defensive coach and certainly understood the culture that he was going to coach his defense from. So I think it's rare, but I still think we need to continue to do what we're doing the way you guys are investing with the FCA and the Nation of Coaches. If our coaches and our character coaches are pouring into these kids' lives, I still think there's a lot of kids out there who can still do things the right way for the right reasons. So I'm just...
Yep. The Mullins kid from Greenfield Central, who's just a great player, had his list down to IU and UConn, and he chose UConn, and his comment was, I know Coach Hurley is going to coach me hard. Mm-hmm. I know that's exactly what he's going to do every day, a postseason, preseason, during the season, which kind of led me to think, and if you read between the lines, is Woody going to coach you hard? I mean, exactly. I didn't really like hearing that, but I liked hearing that he said, that's what I want. I mean, in Manchester, you know what I wanted? I wanted the ball, man.
You wanted the ball at Stephen Center. You wanted the ball every.
I said,
We're the class of 74, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's
Yes.
right. I remember
yes.
that.
Yes. My coach in Manchester was a Brethren minister now.
Yeah.
Coach Wolf, just a wonderful man.
Yeah.
And, I would make a mistake. He'd say, Coach, take him over there and run him till he gets sick. And I said, Coach, cuss at me. I'm a West Side kid from South Bend. Tell me I ain't any good. Do something, but don't make me run for 100 laps, man.
Guys, it's been awesome having you here. Continued success, Tony. I know that it's an exciting time for you. Athletic departments continues to grow. Ministry continues to grow. And I know it's been a very, very successful spring and now fall, and things are looking up. So continued success to you.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work. And don't forget, you can check out the Tony Natali Show every month on the same Regional Radio Sports Network YouTube channel. Coach Lightfoot, always, my friend.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate all you've done.
Great to see you.
Yeah, give my best to those two wonderful boys of yours.
I will.
I know they're the apple of you and Jackie's life, but give them my very best.
I will.
All right, that's going to do it for our program here tonight. Once again, thanks for joining us here. For Coach Ron Hecklinski. You think next time around you'll have that thing off?
No, I got this on until after Christmas. Man.
After Christmas?
Yeah, sleeping, showering.
So
the
that
whole
means
thing,
I
man.
win all the wrestling matches and I win all the 100-yard dashes, right?
This is heaven for me tonight because I'm out of the house. I'm talking with people. This is wonderful for me.
Yeah.
All right, Coach. You hang in there. Continue to get better.
Yeah.
Special thanks to Cormac as well as the legendary Tanner Camp and Andrew Kirksey, our video editor. That's going to do it for our program tonight and for all of us at the Regional Radio Sports Network. God bless you all. Good night, everyone.